working through some tech problems here.
I guess the new Apples won't accept power banks, will they?
We don't know.
Like a
Power bank.
or could your power bank be dead by chance?
No, it says,
Oh, no,
it says it's feeding, but it doesn't look like it's.
charging.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm gonna call the May 14th, 2025 meeting of the Lacey Planning Commission to order. Roll call. Everybody is here except Judy, Tanya and Spencer are remote. Thank you.
And Gail is.
And Gail is not here. She's not. Okay. We do have a quorum. Elliot, please read the land acknowledgements.
We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian tribe and Squaxin Island tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed and relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of those lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights, and allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thank you. All right, I'm looking for a motion on the agenda as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Okay. Meeting minutes, any amendments? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the April 23 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome, thank you. Public comment, we do have a couple people signed up, Tim Claridge and Julia. Sorry, yeah.
My handwriting.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Thank you. So please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And you cannot advocate for,
Things, how do you?
yes, the whole usual protocol.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Hey, I'm Tim Claridge from the Thurston County Youth Football League. Julia Skidmore is with Sonic Elite Cheer. We both have operations in the city of Lacey. We currently occupy a 3,000 square foot warehouse space over at Hill Betty. She operates her business out of the Black Hills Gymnastics warehouse there. Both of us are being displaced. She has outgrown her facility. Our property, I guess, is going to be redeveloped. So the landlord has let us know they're not going to be renewing. So we are looking to get ourselves moved into a new place. Some of you may be familiar with TCYFL. We have about 5,000 participants throughout the year, throughout Thurston and in some of the surrounding areas. Julia has about 400 participants in her program. Julia's got a great program that offers both for the cheerleaders that go and compete. They actually just took second place in the country in Florida. They have a program for kids with disabilities. They have a cheer program there for them. We cover a broad range as well, from kindergarten to 8th grade. We feed into 16 high schools in this community. We have found a building that we would like to move into. Unfortunately, it does not fit the zoning requirements. There are very limited spaces in the city of Lacey that would offer the zoning that's needed for us to be able to move our facilities there. The two of us have a tight relationship with the chair program that we have at TCYFL, is with her facilities that we use from time to time as well. And so we're hoping to garner some support from the city to go through and help us be able to get a conditional use permit in the future. Her facility is unique in the sense that she has to have 24-foot ceilings. They throw kids up in the air, so you can't go into an 8-foot high ceiling, go, hey, it's like a dance studio, right? You can't have them get in their heads. If you know where the Hummingbird Scientific Building is, directly behind that on Commerce Street on Willamette, there's a building there that an owner user occupies a chunk of the building. They would like to have us come in there as well. Other people have looked to lease the space, but they want to tear out the office and other TI improvements that are already existing. It's actually a perfect fit for both of us where we wouldn't need to do anything there to the space. But again, it is zoned light industrial instead of light industrial commercial. And so that's the challenge for us, is that zoning just prohibits us from fitting in that space. And so we just, again, we felt like it was important to come here and talk to you guys. We're also going to address the city council in the future and start going through that process. But we would really love to keep both these businesses in the city of Lacey as a central point for us to be, as opposed to being forced to go look outside of the city of Lacey. So that's it.
Thank you. And so you're going to start a conversation with city council?
I've talked to Malcolm and actually sat down with him and kind of walked through some things.
Okay.
But again, he had said to come to the workshop. I went yesterday, but it wasn't that kind of workshop yesterday. It's still a very beneficial meeting to be at. But again, we've got to navigate the process through that. I know it's a bit to go through and do. But we think it's the right fit because the building's a perfect fit for us. The landlord would like us. It's not like some of the other warehouse spaces around where it's heavily laden with the large trucks and everything else. In fact, the building right now, currently, the back side of it was already striped for parking because the previous group wasn't using it for the shipping and everything else that you would normally see in those. That specific little industrial park next door is an engineer firm. Out in front's a website or technology kind of a firm. Hummingbird Scientific is R&D. So it's not the same as going over to where some of the other big warehouse spaces are. So it seems to be a really good fit for us. TCYFL, we store a lot of our stuff there, and then it's busy about maybe 6 Saturdays out of the year when we're issuing gear or taking gear back. Julia's program isn't in there until the evening times. So at the times when those businesses are actually open and operating, we're not even in the building. So we kind of come in the evening hours or on the weekends at the certain times of year for seasonality for us.
Okay, so when you're having your conversations with council, make sure you bring the proper uniforms.
Okay, I will do that. I've talked to them and I was gonna get a letter from them, but they're drafting that for us so that we have that. So any other recommendations of what we should do?
That's the biggest one.
Okay.
Okay, start the conversation with council, and that's the way you start moving through the system.
Do you know when the next council workshop meeting is?
So they'll meet next Tuesday. That'll be a regular
Okay,
meeting,
so next week.
but they'll
Okay.
have public comment at that meeting. So that would be.
Is it appropriate to do a short PowerPoint and bring some information, or is it better just like this?
Yeah, they won't do that for
Okay.
public comment, so,
Correct.
Okay,
But yeah,
Just
if you
making
want-
sure.
Yeah, if you want to make comment, it's very similar to here, 3 minutes up at that podium instead of this
Yeah.
one, and they're sitting up there, but otherwise it's the same.
okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you all very much.
awesome, thank you guys.
Thank
You love an audience, okay?
I can stay longer if you'd like.
Yeah, well, these guys are good, but it's always nice to have somebody who might potentially apply, so.
Oh, so if I could, just one last thing, I don't know, and I'll tell city council guys, I'll share it with Malcolm. We do use a lot of the city facilities, and if any of you guys are interested in seeing what TCYFL does, Friday nights we're at the rack. We've got about 630 kids that are out there every Friday night with live music and food trucks and everything else on Friday nights for the next couple of weeks. This particular Friday, we're doing presentation to 12 veterans that are coaches from the Quilts of Valor program, and the Seahawks are coming down to give us a grant. So don't share that one too much because we don't want too many people there. But, if you guys want to come see what TCYFL is and what we do for the kids in the community, it's a good thing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody online? Okay, commission,
We didn't have anybody register online.
okay. Commission members reports. Anybody got anything?
I do.
Yeah, and first I want to welcome Gail to the
I'm
meeting.
sorry.
Thank you. It's all good.
Phone rang 3 times in the car.
Okay, Kieran?
I just wanted to bring some community news that I've been following really closely HB 1217, I believe, the rent stabilization, and that passed. So I think that, a lot of the conversations we have here are about affordable housing, and I personally know children that have been unhoused due to rents doubling. So I think that that is a huge victory. I know that city council had said that they we're really concerned about this issue, but it was really a state issue. So it's just really heartwarming to hear that passed so that we could support our renting families. Also on Saturday, I went to the DEI summit that was hosted by the League of Women Voters. And there was a lot of meetings that were talking about community issues and a lot of representatives from the different local jurisdictions. And some of the recommendations were to really ensure that DEI was integrated into all of the local, the jurisdictional laws and regulations. And I was thinking about what we do here, making sure that, there's disability access for people in wheelchairs, for people who are older, for people at different SES levels. And so I thought it was a really great conversation. And so, and the one thing I saw is that our local, commission on equity was, they have name tags and t-shirts. Very official. So when they show up to spaces, it's like, that people who volunteer with the city are actually in those spaces. And I was just curious if we were ever going to get some beautiful little name tags. Like when we go out to community events and people could be like, oh wait, there's someone who we are not employed by the city, but someone who is here as an earpiece for the city, and just so that people could know that we're there and that we care to be in those spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's something the planning commission would like, I mean, we certainly look at our department budget and see what we could provide in terms of name tags or shirts or those kinds of things. And name tags, we've done the temporary ones before, but I know what you're talking about, which is more kind of the thing with the city logo and that kind of thing on it, right? So, yeah, we could definitely provide names.
So thumbs up, everybody want a name tag?
All right.
Awesome, okay.
I was at Bob's Kids fishing event at Columbus Park 4 days ago. And what you just said, I was like, oh yeah, that actually might have worked there. Just to show that we're present, and like you said, that your earpiece is there.
Yeah, and that actually could have been beneficial at the open house too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So those, no problem. We can provide those. I mean, I just and it goes without saying, I guess, but just make sure that whenever you're operating in your official capacity, that you've got that name tag on. If you're at an event on your own personal time,
Right,
then
yeah,
you don't need to wear
yeah,
those.
yeah.
But yeah, if we do have open houses and those kinds of things, that's when we can use those. So yeah. No
Okay,
problem.
thank you. All right, department items.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah,
Gail?
Tanya, Spencer, nope.
Want to make sure. Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't know.
no,
Nothing on the department side, no.
okay, no public hearing, no new business, so here we are at a comprehensive plan update on the transportation element. I'm gonna let Ryan
I'll
kick it off. Yep.
Yeah, I'll kick it off and then I'll pass it over to our first presenters here tonight. So let's see, we got a couple of points ready to go and I'll hand it off to them after I get done talking. So tonight we have the last three elements in front of you for review for goals and policies associated with the comprehensive plan update process. So we will start first with transportation, move into economic development, and then finish with utilities. So these are as I mentioned, the last three elements that will be in front of you for review prior to releasing this to the public, which we are anticipating in around July 1st. So this morning we met with the department director team and got their review and we'll be getting their comments back from them. And then this same information will be presented, much like that we've been doing this in the past, as this information will be presented to the city council on Tuesday night. Tuesday night is a regular meeting. We're going to be doing it at the very end of their agenda. So if anybody's interested in watching that meeting or coming to that meeting, we'll be doing that at the very end of things. So yeah, from there, we'll be moving this into a draft, and then we're just starting at this point, and we will provide you more information on this here in the future, but our plans are to be doing more community events this summer about primarily getting the word out about the opportunity to participate in reviewing the draft. And if you might remember, the draft will be 100% web-based. So it's really pushing people to the website and having the website fully functional to be able to take review comments and input through the website at that point. So we might be able to put those name tags to use if you want to come to summer events coming up. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Goodsell. Stephen is with Fair and Peers, our consultant. I think we've met with Stephen before, consultant on the transportation element, and then Mark Hoppy here from our transportation department as well. So let's see, pull this up. So Stephen, so somebody you and then you can drive. Good, sounds good.
Pass this slide.
Yep, there you go.
Sounds good. All right, well, we'll be talking about the draft goals and policies that we've come up with so far for this comprehensive plan update. So as an overview, what we've done is adapt the existing goals and policies from the current transportation plan. We've recommended new goals and policies as required by the new HB 1181 and commerce checklists, as well as the TRPC checklist. And then we've incorporated feedback that we've heard from the community and from the city as we've gone through this process. So just talking about some of the requirements and the guidance that we've had as we've structured the policies. The Growth Management Act dictates a lot of what we need to talk about in the goals and policies. The Department of Commerce, their checklist pretty much reflects the new Growth Management Act updates directly, and we just need to make sure that we're checking all of the items off their list, as well as the TRPC checklist, as well as considering the environmental justice requirements. So some of the documents and policy documents that have gone into this update include the current policies, which I mentioned, the regional transportation plan, the 2018 PED bike plan, as well as these other plans listed here. So as a comparison, just wanted to show that we had 20 goals and over 120 policies in the current set of goals and policies from the 2030 transportation plan. And what we're presenting right now is 6 goals and about 35 policies. So simplifying it down, trying to make it a little more digestible, a little more compact. So just talking to community engagement and what we heard from the community about transportation, there was a request for better pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure. So really improving neighborhood connectivity and improving amenities, requests for accessible neighborhoods with walkable amenities, concerns over sprawl and car dependent developments. So there's a couple of comments here that have been called out. I want Lacey to be the cutest and most walkable, cyclable, and accessible tree city in Washington. My dream version of Lacey has separated bike lanes and sidewalks along all roads and streets. And then the other one, 20-minute towns with dense housing to make it easy for walking and bicycling to get most things needed without a car. So we have 6 proposed goals. I'm just gonna collapse this like this, if that's okay. Yes. And these goals were framed just based around the community priorities. I believe that you've seen them before. There were 6 priorities. And so we've pretty much gone 1-to-1, goal 1 matches priority 1 through 6. And goal 1 being build a multimodal network for Lacey that connects people walking, rolling, biking, accessing transit, and making regional connections. Goal 2, prioritize safety and quality of life, especially for the most vulnerable users of the transportation network in Lacey. Goal 3, support affordable housing and urban development with appropriate transportation infrastructure. Goal 4, prioritize sustainability and environmental conservation efforts. Goal 5, maintain Lacey's identity, support amenities, and promote recreation. Goal 6, invest wisely in transportation infrastructure that supports economic growth and local businesses in Lacey. So we don't want to go through all of these. I'm just going to highlight some as for each of these goals, policies that we have called out. So for policy 1A associated with goal 1 here, we talk about developing an interconnected grid that meets multi-modal standards, a grid of streets, bike lanes, and trails, and that increase individual travel options and improve neighborhood connectivity. 1B has to do with developing a level of traffic stress 2 or better active transportation network and establishing LTS 2 or better guidelines. 1C is maintaining vehicle level of service city and state standards. That's more of the vehicle level of service side of things. And then 1E, encouraging transit. Feel free
So,
to pause.
yeah,
if
let's,
you
does
wanna
anybody have any
digest it.
questions about goal 1?
Does traffic stress refer to my stress or the stress on the road?
Yes, perceived comfort is by the user, yeah.
Okay,
So your stress.
my stress.
So go back
Right.
slide, please, Stephen.
Yeah,
So the maintain vehicle LOS, so could you expand on that a little bit? Because I'm assuming there's intersections and streets where the city is or has determined there needs to be an increase in that particular LOS.
correct.
So here we're talking about maintain. What does that mean?
It just pretty much means do what we're doing right now, so.
Okay.
Martin could talk to it too, but there are TIAs for developers that come in, they have to provide studies on the impacts that they're bringing to study intersections. And there's a standard that intersection has to maintain.
Okay.
So if the development comes in and brings in more traffic that then brings the intersection below that standard, this is pretty much
Yeah,
just saying, we're gonna
current
keep
standards
charging
are
them.
A level service E in the core area and D everywhere else.
Okay,
We're gonna maintain that.
okay, that's what I thought you meant, but I wanted to hear you say. it.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And they're spelled out in a lot more detail in the full draft of the golden policies list, but yeah. High level, that's what that is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And this might apply to what you're about to talk about, but do you guys consult with the police department when you are looking at the possible impacts of safety for these kinds of changes? And if so, when you consult them, what does that look like?
Well, currently, we're working on our safety action plan. The assistant chief is on that board, he's a stakeholder. The last couple of years, we've had problems with our traffic officers. We haven't had traffic officers. We just got them back. I know one of them so far. I've offered to meet with them. They haven't taken me up on it. But in the past, we've met fairly regularly.
Great.
Okay, good.
Yep, so you're referring to goal 2, correct? The safety, prioritize safety and quality of life. Yep, so that's more in line with the comprehensive safety action plan, like Martin was talking about. So goal 2C is to develop and implement the comprehensive safety action plan. So there's that coordination with local law enforcement. But yeah, a lot of these policies are either modified from the existing set of goals and policies. So I'm sure there's been some previous work on that as well, and just like best practices for transportation today. Yep. Cool. And so yeah, going through some of these, we have embracing a safe system approach to transportation. That's really just the safe system approach highlights proactively targeting, safety concerns and trying to fix those, to implement safe speeds and post-crash care, among other things. 2B talks about access management, limiting access where appropriate to reduce the number of conflicts at driveways. 2C like I mentioned, the comprehensive safety action plan. 2D, providing safe active transportation options and safe routes to schools as a policy. 2E and F are very similar. They have to do with accessibility, the Americans with Disabilities Act transition plan compliance, and just making sure that generally all modes of transportation are accessible to everyone. And then 2G is traffic calming and implementing traffic calming and design standards, just making sure that it's something that's being considered.
Go
I
ahead.
saw a recent survey, I don't know where, maybe I came across it on like the Facebook page or something, I believe it's for the TRPC, but about the like crosswalks and the areas where collisions and pedestrians have been injured. Is that part of this goal to like spread those surveys?
You're
And
talking about the Martin Waste survey that they did. And TFPC's doing some crossing analysis along Martin Way.
right, and I was just curious if those were getting out, across the community. I don't know if Facebook knows that I'm a kind of legal nerd or whatever. But is there other ways that kind of information to get community input about how to improve our those crossings is getting out?
TFPC just hired a full-time person just for public information, and I think that's why she's sending out all these surveys.
I see Spencer's up there.
Spencer,
Yes, I invited everyone to
You're
the
muted.
open.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that's
did it
on
go
our
through?
so on our end,
Can you hear me?
Hold on.
right
Okay,
now,
can you hear me now?
Down to Zoom and go to that little carrot thing. No. You might have to stop sharing. Stand by, Spencer. We'll take care of this.
Okay,
Go to the audio. That little. To the Scarlett Solo USB. No. Just go Real Tech Audio.
try it now, Spencer.
can you hear me?
Oh.
Nope.
All right.
We can hear you, but just like barely. Stand by. We'll.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Stand by while we work on technical difficulties.
Settings to make it so the screen doesn't sleep.
Oh.
How about now, Spencer?
Testing.
Be poking around
Nope.
like you.
No. I would type it if
Under
there was a
general.
spot.
Mine's turned off. I don't know if
How
yours
about
is.
now?
Testing.
Nope.
Okay.
Wait, what about the bottom right? There's a little speaker with an X. What is that all about?
Oh, look at that.
How about now?
Hello, hello.
Oh,
To the audio on the bottom. And then go sharp HDMI. How about now, Spencer?
Hello.
Hey, there it is.
Ah, that explains why everyone was ignoring me earlier. Yeah, so the Intercity Transit just had an open house for that study to solicit feedback from the community, and approximately 30 individuals showed up from the community to give input on the 3 proposed design locations, which were the highest fatality and or number of incidents. And so that was a really good turnout. I think we've got a ways to go on getting that perfected. And I know they're looking forward to doing, I think, up to 12 in that study as well. And then having that as a plan that the cities can utilize to work cross-jurisdictionally to make Martin Way a consistent road across all the jurisdictions.
Good question.
Okay, Gail.
I don't see anything, I don't see anything in here which becomes, I don't know if it's part of this plan or should be part of this plan, but when you are driving, there are numerous intersections that literally you cannot see around the corner because of foliage that has overgrown or so you're halfway across the street before you can see a car coming. And I wonder if does that belong in here? Where does it belong? Because it is a safety issue to me. And I don't
Usually
know-
that's shop issues, I could see that during the spring, things tend to come up, but they usually go out there pretty quick, and if not, give me a call and I'll.
So at this level, we're very, very high level.
Yeah, I
right?
realize
Right,
that, but but there's a way to talk about that
So
somewhere.
is there a maintenance standard or goals and policies in here related to maintenance?
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe there's a gap here, maybe there's a policy about like increase community connection to this, or like some way for the community to communicate issues that they're seeing. I feel like we
There's that.
had
We
something
do have that
loosely.
on our website.
Yeah, but maybe like as a policy.
And so what I remember, Gail, from when I was on city council is, so for city owned right of way,
Yeah, I know, and.
contact the transportation department, they'll go out and look at it. For private property where there's a bush that's
They
grown,
have it.
they connect with the property owner
Mhm.
and recommend what needs to be done. So,
I'm just wondering if there should be a goal or a policy in here that, you know, finds a way to encourage citizens to report what they perceive as safety hazards. Maybe I'm opening Pandora's box there, but I think, people don't, you know, you go around the corner, you drive across the street and you go, damn, this is ridiculous, but you don't go any further with it because there isn't an easy mechanism to report that.
so is that a communication issue on the part of the city, or is that something we really?
I don't know, that's what
I think it's a communication
Where
thing.
are you at particularly?
Where do I live?
No, I mean, where are you having a problem?
21st and Golf Club.
It's me. You go. I'll take care of it.
Does this, I guess, solicit, or should we have a policy here that's like solicit community feedback? Or is that part of the comprehensive safety action plan right now that you're like going out and asking the community?
No, I
these
mean,
questions?
we have a new program, the Q alert system. I don't know what it's called. We call it Q alert. That is on the website, you report a problem and that's how we get most of our stuff lately.
Yeah, I think it's better there.
There than
in my
here, it probably
opinion.
is,
Yeah.
it probably is, but I just think it should be covered in some fashion for public comment.
I guess what, you know, what we could do is we could take a look at if an additional policy would need to be added. I think what we would need though is kind of, you know, the, you know, general kind of thumbs up from the planning commission as far as wanting that to get added. Is that something, I'd be interested to hear from other planning commission members if you feel like that's a priority thing that should be potentially considered as an additional policy is communications and or I could see this, you know, handled through kind of an additional policy that might be related to, you know, some high level of, you know, maintenance, you know, those kinds of things, keeping the system in good working order.
Yeah.
Again, we gotta keep this really high level,
I
right?
understand,
Because,
yeah.
you know, we're not gonna be able to say, you know, address every
No,
community members'
but, you
concerns
know,
through this,
but
but
maybe develop a mechanism, develop and publicize a mechanism for citizens to report. If you've already done it, it's not gonna be
We already have
extra
it.
work, it's just there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's already all there in place. So, yeah, I mean, there's on the
Publicize
web
it.
report, the problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
Maybe
you know,
publicizing
I mean,
it,
if we
promoting.
Yeah, promote it.
get so granular that we have to define what kind of problems to
No.
communicate, then a report.
It could be just an internal note to the
Yeah,
city
just
to like market it, or,
Yeah, marketing promotion.
yeah,
And
something.
the other thing that might happen is our signs and marking person that's been here forever just retired and there's a new person too. So maybe that's, I meet with them Friday, so I'll make sure to bring it up.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that belongs in the comprehensive.
Yeah, I don't
plan.
know if it does or not,
Yeah.
but I was curious to know if there was a way to communicate those things that people know about. You know, I don't think they necessarily say, well, you know, somebody just took the front off my car, I'll call the city and tell them this is a bad intersection.
Right?
You know?
They usually do.
Good, all
You're
right,
looking for somebody to pay the bill.
Right?
yeah, they're looking for somebody to get the bill, yeah. But if there isn't a bill and they narrowly miss you, maybe not.
Hey, Carrie, did you have something?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I had that similar issue and I'd gone into the apartment conflicts to speak with the building manager, and even people, when I was saying, I just need to report that I feel very unsafe, and people that lived in that community were like, I also feel unsafe with this corner. But it would be nice if there was that external way to just like say this is the corner instead of having to try to find someone at their home, but face-to-face neighborly communications are always nice.
Maybe, and I mean, I don't think it belongs in the comp plan, but it needs to be somehow
Maybe a
publicized.
a way.
Yeah, communicated broadly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good, Steve.
I think you have one more.
Sorry. going back to that,
sorry,
though.
Jen.
Yeah, it's on, it's, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Back on that though.
Okay.
Really like the walkability connectivity emphasis. A criticism or a concern that you might hear is, well, we've talked about safety, but not security. So the connectedness opens up accessibility for people who wouldn't otherwise have access to certain communities by foot. And so there might be a security concern with that. What is your response to that concern?
That's, a difficult one, like the priority from our perspective is to provide this facility and to make it accessible to everyone. And, the byproduct is that some people that shouldn't be using it or use it improperly. And so that's kind of when it gets raised to more of the police side of
Yes,
things.
yeah.
But like, yeah, it's kind of hard to say that we have a policy here, something, some language that says, but we really have to be wary about this.
My question, I suppose, is there some kind of mechanism or process in place where you guys communicate regularly with the police department about maybe what these changes are going to happen, do whatever, just so you guys know, you may not telling them what to do, but just letting them know that those changes are gonna happen and to be more aware of the different state of areas.
So that seems to be beyond the comp plan.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
so-
but that's
so
good to know where
No,
the-
it's a good conversation, but I think it's beyond what we're
Okay,
looking at here.
I mean, it's not very common that they would call us for something like that. I mean, I know this morning, actually, the contractor on College Street's been complaining about people speeding. And we do let the sergeants know that, hey, we've been having this complaint. So if there's things we can't do, we'll send them an email.
oh, okay. Yeah, thanks.
Right, let's go on.
Goal 3 is around supporting affordable housing and urban development with appropriate transportation infrastructure. This overlaps heavily with the housing element and the land use element. So there's not a lot here because it's already in other places in the comp plan. This is more speaking to transportation, how transportation can support those goals. Goal 4 aligns with the climate element. It's prioritizing sustainability and environmental conservation efforts. Essentially, this goal covers the HB 1181 requirement to talk about reducing GHG emissions and vehicle miles traveled. So these are covering some of those checklist items, but also talking to environmental justice, and emergency response and natural disaster resiliency.
I was curious, and for C, I know you're talking about construction, but I work my students and I work with a lot of the kids in the community as we're going through with like the water quality testing. A lot of the kids are really concerned about the 6-ppd, I want to say quinone, is this right? 6-ppd, the tire residue chemical that's getting in the water and impacting the coho, I think, really negatively. So when you're talking about minimize the negative impacts on fish, are you talking about ways to mitigate the chemicals that are being released from car tires or pollution that way? Or are you talking about literally constructing things?
It's all of the above.
Yeah, I was just looking at the exact. Yeah, essentially it's everything. It's like broadly, what are the impacts to fish? And I know that in these environmental impact analyses that are often done as part of larger studies, they have to look at things like the, you know, the chemicals, the tire residue and
Yeah, we
stuff like
just
that. and
submitted a
the-
biological assessment on College Street to the US Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah, so it's already kind of part of the process of going through a project. This is just reiterating, like, hey, consider the effects on fish.
Right, thank you.
If I could add, so things like 6 ppb are, you know, they're right, it's incorporated through other means. So the Department of Ecology regulates water quality. You know, they implement, requirements, goals, guidelines that we have to address, like going through the project design process to ensure that things like that don't make it, you know, into groundwater or surface waters. So it's, and in terms of, where it's highly defined is in other areas that this ties into.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that we need to remember as we're going through this is our focus needs to be on what we want to memorialize in the comprehensive plan and what's appropriate to memorialize in the comprehensive plan. It's not gonna do us any good to just rewrite the same regulation that already exists that needs to be followed.
Goal 5 comes pretty directly from the community priorities to maintain Lacey's identity, support amenities and promote recreation. The policies here revolve around that, investing in projects that reflect community goals, it's 5A, and then 5D, continuing to use strategy corridors to preserve community scale, not over widening roads and taking out businesses where, you know, that doesn't need to happen, and then considering road diets where appropriate, or minimizing lanes and repurposing roadway infrastructure.
I'm not sure if the planning commission knows exactly what a strategy corridor is. As a reminder, there are certain corridors around the community that basically are major corridors, that are limited to essentially 4 lanes plus a center turn lane, and that's as large as they will ever get. And so that's why you don't see, like, you know, maybe you go some other places around the country and you see, you know, 3 and 4 lane on each direction arterials. You're not gonna see that in Lacey because the maximum section is gonna be essentially that 5 lane section. And if for some reason a project comes along that dictates that corridor has impacts to that corridor that says it's gonna add volume to maybe expand that corridor, they need to use other means to offset the impact to that corridor because it will not be able to expand width-wise, if that makes sense. So they have to do things like like ride sharing or pedestrian infrastructure.
Corridor,
Parallel.
so, yeah, parallel routes type thing.
Yeah, there you go. And then the other is the idea of a road diet. So I don't know how familiar the planning commission is with a road diet. Essentially, that is, I guess, kind of as the terminology implies, is taking a fat road and making it skinnier. So where you maybe have like a 4 or 5 lane section, taking, you know, that down to a 3 lane section, you know, where you have, you know, more, at that point, more pedestrian bicycle amenities. You have more room for that because you're taking away areas that are previously a travel lane.
That's exactly what we're doing on College Street right now. It's a 4 lane section and we're converting it to a 3 lane section with bike lanes.
North of
North
Martin.
of Martin Way.
Yeah, the
So
ones
the
being
new construction
constructed right now.
project.
Essentially repurposing that lane where the volumes don't really meet that demand.
Yeah, because we were kind of incorporated in the 60s, we don't have the wide roads, cause like Seattle, 5 lanes automatically in every situation, and in the 60s it was much less.
Oh. Very last one's about UGA roadway updates to urban standards. Alright, and the final goal 6. This is essentially just talking about how to invest in transportation infrastructure and supporting economic growth and local businesses in Lacey. So 6A is determining cost-effective and equitable investments, operations, and maintenance, considering the whole life cycle of a project. 6B allowed the movements of goods to Lacey businesses. 6C, addressing conflicts from freight, especially in industrial areas, either with infrastructure and or travel demand management strategies, or finding ways to get them off commute hours and different incentives that the city could work with there. 6D is minimizing life cycle costs and maintaining a state of good repair. It kind of talks to the maintenance we were talking about a while ago, but just considering that when we're seeking funding for projects. And then 6G, finance within city capacity and seek additional funding if needed for city infrastructure.
Spencer has a question.
Yeah, okay, Spencer.
Yes, could you talk more about the impact fees? That's what is that talking about besides the obvious when you're permitting a project?
Yeah, sounds good.
What we do is we have particular projects that we identify in the comprehensive plan that we expect new development to help fund. So we charge a portion, every trip that goes through that project, we charge them a set fee. So they have to pay that as part of the development.
So to expand on that, Spencer, so those fees get put into a fund for that specific corridor. And as more development comes in, that pot gets fed until there's enough money in there to do the improvements that the transportation department has identified.
You know, usually what we use is we use that money for match money for grants.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the policy also notes just addressing multimodal mitigations, considering, you know, all modes of transportation, not just building out road lanes. So pretty much just doing what you're doing already.
Okay, any final questions for Stephen?
Great. The next set of slides had to do with questions. I don't know if we're short on time at this point. Do you still want to go through these?
It's up to the planning commission. Obviously, you've seen this slide before. This is kind of summing up the, you know, and asking for your feedback on, like, you know, are there any questions, concerns, you know, are there any things that you see as kind of being the most important, anything that needs to be taken away, being added? So this would be the opportunity to do that related to the transportation element. You can stop sharing if you want to.
Right? Okay, so here's what I would like for the planning commission related to the last slide. If you think of something after this meeting is over, because a lot of times it's hard to think in real time, please email Ryan and he will forward your comments, okay?
Yep,
Thank
happy
you.
to do that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be presenting something similar, like Ryan said, to council on Tuesday. And then getting this on the city's website by end of June, correct?
Correct, yep.
And so that would be kind of the time for public comment. So if you have comments, sooner the better, but I mean.
This process is going at lightning speed, so compared to last time, so in any time you want to make comments, go right ahead. We're going to be changing things as we go along.
Yeah, there will be plenty of time to make edits.
Yeah, so that goes back to just
Website.
message Ryan. He will let us, the rest of us know if it's appropriate or get an answer for you. So like I said, sometimes in a meeting like this, you don't think about everything you want to ask. You're on the way home and you go, oh crap. So yes.
I usually sit up there doing nothing anyway. Give me a call.
All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll bring up economic development next.
You want me to leave the mouse here?
I'll take it, I'll get it, I'll share while we're transitioning here. Sure. We'll sit here. What's the drawing? There's the. So We're next on economic development, so we'll go through the goals and policies of the economic development element. We have Sarah Schelling, our current planning and economic development manager, and Wesley Nguyen, our economic development coordinator. I don't know if, Wesley, if you've presented to the planning commission or not, so.
This is my first time.
All right.
Well, welcome.
Yeah. So go ahead.
All right, good evening, Commissioner. My name is Wesley Nguyen, like Ryan mentioned. I've been with the city for 4.5 years, so this is my first time presenting to you guys, but I've been here for 4.5 years. So like the previous presentation, this is the economic development plan, policies and goals and policies, updates. So I will, well, with the slide, you've probably seen these slides before, so I'm not gonna go too much into the detail. But these first two slides are just the background information. And then, yeah, before I want to go there, I wanted to ask you guys, for those that have read the package, how many goals do we have? Think about the last presentation. Six. Six. Similar to the transportation, we have 6 goals. So keep that in mind as I present the reports and work that was done prior and give us the foundation for this update. So these are some of the documents and study that was done prior to me being here. The Woodland District Strategic Plan in 2013. We had an economic element in 2016, a comp plan as well. The economic development element is an optional element of the comp plans. But historically, for the last 20 years or even longer since Ryan's here, we always have an economic development element in our comp plans. So this is just to follow that tradition. So while I was here, I helped coordinate and did the 2022 market study. So using all these documents and report help us as build the foundation for our work and coming up with these goals and policies. Another aspect that help us is outreach program that Ryan led, both online as well as in person. Some of the commissioner have been to the open house that we were here. And then the third thing is that I have went out and talked to a lot of the business here in our communities, 80 of them, just to talk to them about their situations, their concerns, their challenges, their pain points. And I, taking all that in and then, some of the things that we heard from the engagement are up there. And so please take time to read through that. But we did take a lot of their feedback and it's reflected in the goals and policy that we will be sharing with you. So yeah. So these are our 6 goals and policies. They told me I need to read them to you.
Who told you that?
It's important that we read that to you. Promote a positive business climate, encourage a strong and diverse economy through strong partnerships and workforce development. Goal 3, foster a thriving, diverse and resilient economy by supporting entrepreneurships and strengthening local businesses. We heard that a lot at the open house. Goal 4, preserve commercial areas to provide local goods, service, and vibrant community gathering place to live, work, shop, and play. Goal 6, promote socially and environmentally sustainable business and development. And this goes into in relation to our climate and sustainable goals and policies. And then last one, goal 6, ensure adequate and reliable housing, public facility and infrastructures are available to promote economic growth and activities. And again, this goes to the transportation and infrastructure conversations just happened, as well as housing you had before. And so, yeah. Anybody know how many policy we have? Did you know this is a box? Cause I know, Commissioner McMichael says she's a teacher, so. Pop quiz.
Nobody told us there was gonna be a quiz.
Lucky for you. We have 25.
This is why Wesley hasn't been here before.
They don't want me here. We have 25 policies. Goal ones have 3 policies, and I just want to highlight a couple of policies in each of these goals, so that you can see. But you have in the package all of the goals and policy if you want to look at them. And if you have comments or questions or suggestions, please, again, share with Ryan as well as myself, or share, and we can do what we can to improve on it. Goal 1, promote a positive business climate. And this is really important to me and to the city. We really provide excellent customer service, supporting opportunity for employees to receive customer service training. When I'm out in the community and talking to business, people like our city because they know what service we have and how we provide customer service to them. It's predictable, it's stable, and they also know how transparent we are in the timing of things, so they really appreciate that. Goal 2, encourage a strong, diverse economy through strong partnerships and workforce development. A lot of the work of economic development is not done by the city of Lacey. A lot of it we leverage our community partners to do that work. So this goal is about partnership. So we work with the Thurston EDC, with Pack Mountain Workforce Council and other local organizations that could help us carry out that work. So we work very close partnership with them. And policy 2D kind of talked about that. So, I mean, I don't need to read that.
Pause and go see if there's any feedback at this point.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's take a quick pause and let's just see if there's any before we
Yeah.
move on to the other goals. Any questions, feedback?
Okay.
Cool. Goal 3. Foster a thriving, diverse, and resilient economy by supporting entrepreneurship and strengthening local businesses. There are 5 goals, 5 policies in this goal. And so I highlight 2 of those 5. Encourages sustainable and expansion of existing business while attracting new enterprise that reflect community values and provide living wage job opportunities. And then policy 3, advance initiative that nurture new entrepreneurs and support their growth, such as the food truck depot and the night market. For those that don't know, I do a welcome new business letter every month. And I run a report. On average, about 40% of our new business are home-based business, entrepreneurs that want to do something else. So some of them are expanding from their hobby, whatever, and now they want to turn into a business. But through the business license, we love to work with them from, cooking at home to hopefully have a food trucks, and from the food truck, hopefully they'll get to a brick and mortar restaurant. So that's how we are looking at to support and nurture that sort of economic development. Okay, moving on to goal 4. Preserve commercial areas to provide local goods and service in a vibrant community gathering place to live, work, shop, and play. And then, so again, I pull out 2 policies. There are 7 policies in this particular goal. I pull out 2 of these, integrate policy 4A, integrate placemaking effort through thoughtful architecture, public arts, site planning, prioritize placemaking, particularly in Midtown, Hawkberry Business District, and the Depot District. And for those, before you start asking what is placemaking, do you guys know what is placemaking? Anybody have an answer?
Like our signs that kind of give like Midtown a feel or something?
Yes, exactly. So we're looking at to create, oftentimes when you ask where's Lacey or what Lacey is known for, a lot of people really don't know how to answer that question. So that's what we're striving for, is create something. Public arts or some sort of placemaking to where people can say, oh, that's Lacey. Oh, there's a bridge at blah, 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 that's where Lacey's at. So really creating location where people can identify as part of Midtown, part of Hawkesbury and the depot. So we're working on that. So that's what that policy 4A is about. And then 4C, led efforts in Midtown to create a vibrant space, boost economic growth, enhance the neighborhoods through strategic planning, innovative design, and collaboration with partners. Any question about that one?
So Wesley, is Midtown roughly the Woodland District?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And we're putting a lot of emphasis in Midtown because the city of Lacey doesn't have a downtown. So we can't organically create downtown, so we're trying to do that through this policy to try to create it manufacturally. Like, we're gonna make it happen.
We've been trying to do that since I was on city council.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. I think our city council is very interested in this and they are invested in it. And so, private sectors are also investing in it. We have developers that are improving this area and making it not just shopping, but they're building residential apartment complex. And so hopefully it becomes that of what we want.
Yes.
Yes.
In this goal, in goal 4, you talk about strengthening development standards to retain commercial zoning. For example, in Hawks Prairie, in the Meridian campus area, I'm just curious and representing that area, are you retaining commercial zoning like purposefully so that it's walkable from like the Tilden apartments, like that one commercial spot where, Tilden wants to make more apartments, but is that, for example, an example of that? Okay.
Yes.
And then the other question I always have is, does anything in this goal suggest that there will be a grocery store in Hawks Prairie or north of the I-5 for the Meridian campus area?
We have heard that, and we will create an environment that will support something like that.
Cool.
But City of Lacey don't open us a grocery store.
Right.
But we will do our best to create an environment that support that effort.
Right.
And I'm gonna add on to that a little bit. So this is where it really connects to the land use element. And, in looking at our zoning, even north of I-5 and especially in the Hawks Prairie Business District area, which is just on the north side of the interchange there. So think about where like that Nisqually Tobacco Shop is and some of the new development there where the 23 Kitchens is. A lot of that allows for a mixture of commercial and residential uses. And so what we don't want to see is that with so much flexibility built into those types of zones that the market decides that it should just all be residential. We want to make sure that we're retaining some of these areas as commercial so people can access them, right, if they're in their neighborhoods, but even the regional kind of areas that they are preserved for commercial uses for things like a grocery store, because, for example, if we allowed the proliferation of more apartment complexes and, primarily commercial zones, then we lose our opportunity to have a grocery store, right? So that's another
That's
part of it.
protecting
So
that.
Jennifer,
Mhm.
after the meeting, ask me about Fred Meyer.
Ooh, okay, thank
Okay?
you. I
I will
will.
tell you a story
Okay.
that should not be told on public TV, so.
Okay, thanks, guys.
We're ready for goal 5?
Yes.
Right. What is that? Promote social and environmentally sustainable business and development. Policy 5A, encourage recruit business that provide product and service that support resource conservation, environmental stewardship, and reduction of greenhouse gas emission. I represent the city on the Green Business Advisory through Thurston's chambers. And just this year, we have, they have three winners, they have four awards they give out to every year. Small business, medium business, large business, and a municipality. Two of those business category were won by City of Lacey's businesses. Echoes, if for you that don't know, they do cleaning products. And then Top Rung Brewery, one for small business category. They're very good at stewardship of water. That's their number one ingredients. And so they're very good with that, and they won for small business. And the City of Lacey won an award for being the best in municipality. And so that's what 5A really talked about there. And then go to the last goal 6. Ensure adequate and reliable housing, public facility, and infrastructure are available to promote economic growth and activities. Again, this goal complement the transportation, utilities, housing element as well of the comp plan. So continue. Policy 6A, continue to work with local partners in state to ensure adequate utilities and infrastructures are available to meet the needs of current and future businesses. One thing that as a father of 3 boys, I believe internet and broadband should be a utility as well. A lot of business here in Lacey, when I talk to, they want fast internet connections. And even the food truck, they out in the food truck, they use their POS to slide and get the pay. They want fast internet to be able to do that work. So we don't think about internet as a utility, but I know when my kids, when the electric go out and they tell me, they like, Dad, internet is out, not the electric is out. So that tell you that modern day utility should include internet services.
I agree.
Anyway.
Robert, you had something?
I was just more curious, most of the goals are promote, like foster, etc. This one felt very definitive, like ensure to me is a like we will make certain. And so I was just curious if it was more to be taken in like a hyperbole context, or if we are saying this is what we are going to ensure adequate, right? Like versus we are going to promote, you know what I mean? Like it's from a positioning standpoint, one says we're making strides towards something. This seems like it is happening. And I'm just curious if there was a reason behind kind of the posturing of goal 6. Or if it was just a word choice.
It's probably a word choice, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I'm not really a wordsmith person.
Okay, I mean, then my suggestion would just be maybe keeping them more in line of just like being consistent, just because I don't know if that's something that the city of Lacey can guarantee versus we can posture ourselves to move towards something.
Right.
But like, right, we can't control all things. We can try to steer our economy in a direction, but we can't control housing in the sense that we think, right, we know we can't. We can zone, but we can't stop someone from building a certain thing within, as long as it's within their context of the zoning permits or whatever. So just something to consider.
Will do. Thank you.
So maybe change that word to promote.
Yeah, something, yeah, just some posturing, semantics.
Encourage, support,
Yeah,
advocate.
any of those. See, you said.
I did with school. And I think the last slide is just questions. If you guys have any questions or suggestions or comments.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Spencer first. You got anything, Tanya?
We can stop sharing.
Nope.
So you can
Okay.
go at the top of 6.
I'm sorry, stop sharing.
Gail.
Goal number 5 just reads awkwardly to me. Promote sustainable and promote socially and environmentally sustainable businesses rather than business and development. It's because in the first goal, you say businesses. I'm just wondering if you could change that because you stumbled over it when you read it and I stumbled over it when I read it, so it's difficult.
Yeah.
Got it.
Elliot.
But we can talk all day about promoting or ensuring or et cetera, but then there's the actual rubber meets the road. You know, like if you do an AI overview of common complaints for starting a business in Lacey, you would get some common complaints include navigating local regulations, understanding the competitive and landscape, finding suitable business locations. I've started businesses in a lot of different cities over the years, 67 retired now. This is by far the most difficult time or era to start a business. You know, I started my original business in my house. It was light zoned light commercial, which is now purely residential, which means I've had neighbor complaints, hey, you know, he's running a business out of his house. Police came, said he has a business license. It's light commercial, go away, you know? So that's not really possible in today's environment. You know, we just had an example of people that were trying to find a location that would accommodate their business, but it's not quite zoned for that. So, but the change, making that change is very cumbersome. And they just, you had to explain to them, okay, this is the process that you would have to go through the planning commission, then you go through in this case, I had to go through the council. So the businesses are not being prioritized to be able to address what they need to in a quick manner. I've also built a lot of businesses as a contractor. That's my and for them to open up their office, they're talking 3, 4, 6 months sometimes just to get their final permits. Once they've done the remodel, once they've got their final permit, their notice of execution for their business. So we can talk about all this, but how are we actually reducing the times that businesses take to be able to get in business? Because time is money for a business.
Sure. So I think, I hear what you're saying, and I completely validate what you're saying, but I think that's more of a discussion at a more granular level than what the comprehensive plan is supposed to talk about.
Well, that's the problem, is the comprehensive plan says this is what we'd like to do, but do we actually institute what we would like to do?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the comprehensive plan is supposed to give goals for the various departments in the city to target. And then those various departments decide how to target those. Comprehensive plan isn't supposed to get into the granular level and say, this is what you do.
Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about like what you do in your role here day to day to help businesses?
Sure,
set up?
yeah, and Jeff is right, Commissioner Jeff, Chairman Jeff. We take these goals and policies and then we have action plans on how we implement them, and through our various program efforts within CED, that's how we would support businesses. Now, there are state regulations and jurisdictions that laws and ordinance that prohibit a lot of things. And we don't have any control over that. But on a day-to-day, I get a phone call, a lot of phone calls coming through my way from, hey, how do I open my service for, like, you need to call utility. Or I get a call from people asking, hey, I represent a business and they want to come to Lacey. Can you help us with a location? So then I figured out with them, what are some of the things that they requires? What is the size of the location? What is the, and they say, we want them to have this amount of trip plan. And so I go up to Chris over in transportation and talk to him, does this location, what is the trip plan number? And we figure out and we provide a lot of information back to the business that and the representative as well to provide service like that. But I'm always in the office and I'm always welcome to support any business that are interested in opening up their door here in Lacey. And from whatever it is that they need, from whether it be, hey, I only make widgets, I don't know how to open up a business, I can send them to the EDC. They have a business entrepreneurship training program that they can go through that will help them to put together a business plan. So it vary depend on the type of service that we provide. But yeah, those are some of the things that I do.
So
Yeah.
in Wesley's role, he's kind of almost like a ombudsman in terms of like people come to Wesley and say, hey, I want to do this, that, and the other, and he helps shepherd them through that process.
It's good they have that source.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I think one of the things that we really kind of pride ourselves in Lacey is that no matter where you go, you know, in this day and age, you mentioned that, you know, things have never been harder to open a business than times have never been harder than they are now. You know, we have somebody on staff that basically helps people walk through that process. So,
Should that be in the plan as well as that staff member?
I would say not. That gets down into a lower layer than what the comp plan is supposed to be.
But I think the goal number one, to promote a positive business climate with those associated policies, I think it's trying to get at that. Because one of the things Wesley does, as well as the other things that the planning department does and the building department does and public works do, is really try to help people walk through that process and provide that assistance that they need. We do have regulations handed down by the state
Yeah.
and adopted by council that we have to implement, and it's staff's, I think, pride that they can come into us, they can talk to Wesley, he can help them figure out how to get through some of this process, then go talk to a planner and kind of do the same. So I think goal number one, promoting a
Yeah.
positive business climate, is tries to get at some of the things, the concerns you're talking about.
Right.
Recognizing the fact that it is very difficult.
It is very difficult, and Commissioner Elliott, it's even more difficult for people of color. People immigrants that just recently immigrated to the US, and understanding the bureaucracy of city government and who to talk to is also a struggle. So I'm available to them as well, and we have stand up a training a couple of years ago to support entrepreneurs of colors, BIPOC business training even, to help those folks that are not familiar with City of Lacey or any city operations, and so they're afraid to come in even to talk to us. And so we've been doing that, and through the EDC that did the training, we got a lot of people that through that program that probably would never thought of coming in.
So I'm gonna, out of the interest of time for our meeting, I'm gonna ask you guys to take that conversation offline. And let's stick to what we need to do here.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
I was just curious about policy 3A when it says encourages sustainability and expansion of existing businesses while attracting new enterprises that reflect community values and provide living wage jobs and opportunities. And I was just curious about, though it doesn't explicitly, state it here, but having those community values, and I understand that some years ago, an adult theme shop was told to go elsewhere when they wanted to open up here. But who explicitly decides what those community values are? Or is that something that's housed outside of this particular document?
That's actually in policy and city ordinance.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The comprehensive plan is more targets,
Right.
yeah, versus actual policy.
well, and I'll use that, so, yeah, just right, that, you know, part of it is implemented through the things like the zoning code that says, hey, these things should be allowed, or these things shouldn't in certain areas. Another part of Wesley's position is to actually go outside of the community and recruit businesses into the community that may not already be here. And so we do a lot of surveying and those kinds of things of our community that says, hey, what do people want, and actually work to bring them here. And so that's another way to reflect the community's values, is if the community is saying, hey, we really would value a grocery store in Northeast Lacey, then we also do that through our economic development program to.
Also, well,
Hopefully
mostly
bring them
that is residents contacting those grocery stores.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
that is definitely interesting.
So values can mean
Quite a few.
multiple things here. I think it's not just, traditional values in the traditional sense in terms of morals and those kinds of things, but also what are the community's priorities?
What are their demands?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in economic term, what are their demand? What are they looking for? and then the business size. Are there enough people for me to open a grocery store, right?
What do you seek outside the city too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you,
your-
Wesley. So you're welcome back anytime. Without quiz.
We'll have a quiz for you next time.
Well, we're gonna be quizzed on.
See you, Sarah.
Sort of get that, oh my God, it was a quiz.
Yeah.
I gave my homework.
All right, we're in the final stretch here. Actually, the last goals and policies element review. So, and unfortunately, we are ending on utilities, which is probably the least interesting of all of them.
Yeah, but the utilities are the end of it.
Right behind you.
It's kind of the start and the end.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So a little bit of background on the utilities element. So this is actually a required element under the Growth Management Act. So we're required to have this. The utilities element is interesting because it basically wants the requirement under the GMA is that we need to capture both the municipal utilities as well as the private utilities. So for our municipal utilities, we have water, wastewater, stormwater, and reclaimed water. That's the latest one that you all reviewed a month or two ago. Those are our established utilities, and we actually have individual utility plans for each one of those utilities. And so this utilities element really is a very, very high level goal and policy exercise to support what is already in each one of those individual plans associated with the utilities. So for example, water, wastewater, stormwater, each has their own, has their own service area maps, has their own goals and policies, has their own capital facilities plans, has their own funding structure, and those things are all contained within those separate plans. So this does not go into that level of detail whatsoever. It's really to recognize and supplement those existing plans. It also supports our capital facilities plan. So as I mentioned, each utility has its own plan. As a part of that, there is a capital facilities element of that, and that populates into our overall city's capital facilities plan as well. So you won't see any in what's done through this work, you won't see any recommendations for new facilities or those kinds of things. Those are all contained in those individual utility plans, which is recognized in the capital facilities plan. The other requirement as mentioned is related to private utilities. So this is electricity, natural gas, cable and communications. And so there's coordination and cooperation that happens between the city and those utility providers. And that's recognized here mostly in the form of coordinating the location of where those utilities go. For new development, mostly that's contained in underground utility corridors or joint utility easements and coordination as far as like future utilities, substations, and those kinds of things that might actually end up above ground. So with that, this is a kind of a technical review. This is not something that we did any kind of outreach to the community on. So this isn't based on any kind of feedback from that perspective. So really, this was a technical review that was done internal in-house with staff, and then will be reviewed also by external stakeholders like the utilities companies themselves. Most of the goals and policies are existing from the 2016 plan. There was some edits to remove some redundancies in terms of some of the existing goals or existing policies or overlapping policies. We removed a couple of references to programs that have been completed or are no longer a priority. One of those is the city's water line leak detection program. Back in 2016 and even prior to that, it was a high priority to reduce the amount of water that was unaccounted for in the water system. So what we discovered that through some benefits that we were giving to developers to put in some utility meter bypasses and then also water line leaks. We were having problems with some older infrastructure, so we actually had a leak detection program that used equipment that would actually listen to the ground and find where those leaks were and then replace those pipes. We were finding that we were losing a considerable amount of water prior to implementing that program. That program now, because of the amount of work that the city's done in terms of replacing those pipes and eliminating that bypass for the utility meters, is now in a reasonable amount. So we will never be like 100% from the point of where the water comes out of the ground to where it serves the customer. There will always be some water leakage, but are now within an acceptable amount. So we're proposing to remove that policy.
So when that plan started, we were losing 14%.
Wow.
What are we at now? Scott, any idea?
I'm not sure what this year's numbers are, but I mean, the threshold is 10,
Yeah.
below 10. Yeah, we've been below that, as you mentioned, for
Yeah, it
years.
seems like we got down to like 6 or 7.
We did.
Yeah, but we started at like 14. Yeah, it was an amazing number.
I'm impressed with how fast they've been servicing. We've had 5 incidents,
Like water breaks?
water break,
Yeah.
et cetera, and
They-
the city
they're
was
on
on
the
it and
spot,
took
yeah.
care of it, bam.
Yeah.
Including my own home.
And then another one that is basically been completed is the transfer of the water rights associated with the old Olympia Brewery. So that was a priority in the previous utilities element, and now that's no longer a priority, or it's been completed. I did want to highlight a couple of new items though that were added. One of them, particularly one new goal 9, which is related to the requirements for climate greenhouse gas reduction and climate resiliency, is increase the efficiency of water and wastewater infrastructure. This is policy 9A, which is conducting efficiency improvements to municipal water and sewage treatment systems, and prioritize the replacement of components that consume the most energy and have high greenhouse gas emissions. This is really related to the city's goal to be net zero by 2045, I think it is. So if you look at our operations, you know, we operate, you know, obviously our buildings and our fleet, which generate greenhouse gas emissions, but also the water pumping that the city does also creates greenhouse gas emissions through, you know, the power it consumes and those kinds of things. So that's one thing, basically saying that, you know, that components that are associated with that, if there are higher efficiency units, and these things are essentially kind of phased out over time, that they be replaced with more higher efficiency, less greenhouse gas emitting units. And then policy 9B, encouraging conservation of energy in city utility facilities. So, you know, things like our pump stations and our well houses and those kinds of things, if there are ways to conserve energy through that, to make sure we're prioritizing or encouraging that. And then goal 10, which is encouraging provisions for land resources for utilities, and the brand new policy 10B that's proposed is coordinating regionally to develop regulations for battery energy storage locations that carefully consider appropriate areas for siting of facilities. So I don't know if anybody on the Planning Commission is aware of kind of what a battery energy storage facility is, but essentially it's a, like the term says, it's a battery warehouse or a battery structure. What it does is it sucks power off the grid in times of where there's extra energy in the system, and then it distributes that energy back out in times of lower power or, you know, more demand needs on the grid. Those kind of facilities are, you know, they may be needed in this day and age, but they are highly sensitive in terms of their proximity to other land uses, especially, I think a major risk with these is that they could catch on fire. And so if they did that, then you wouldn't want them in proximity to things like residential areas or schools, or, you know, so my understanding is there's one that's been proposed in rural Thurston County, which is farther out. But what we're working to, and what this policy speaks on, is that we're working as a region to develop regulations that basically say where these things should or shouldn't go in the future. Because right now we don't really have anything on the books.
Would those be private companies that do that?
Yeah.
And then they basically sell it back to the grid after,
Research
or?
in the Olympian about the one that's proposed
Okay.
in South Thurston County now.
Okay.
It's a private company that's proposing one, and the Olympian's done some really good coverage. It's one of the fastest growing businesses.
I mean, it makes sense, especially with things like AI that will eventually consume more power than we can create in the current kind of ways that we can create powers.
My understanding is too, is we're talking to the director team this morning and somebody mentioned that this is a business that Tesla is in as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Oh.
these big battery energy storage facilities.
I mean, my big concern about them is that I totally encourage, because it completely makes sense, right? Let's absorb that energy that's excess when it's not needed and distribute it at the peak times. One of the business models that they have is that a battery energy storage facility will move into a location. And then the next step is you have a solar or wind project next to it. My concern isn't
Oh,
that, because
yeah.
solar and wind are good generally, but you've got to plan for that, right? How do you plan so that that complementary business is accommodated within the surrounding development?
For Lacey, I think, we would probably only see the battery energy storage systems that would be coming off of the power grid. So it would be in close proximity to like a utility substation. We just don't have the area or the land costs are so high that we wouldn't see like.
Wouldn't see a big,
solar farms
yeah.
or a big, wind facility or something like that, so.
I thought that in the last water bill flyer, I forget what this is called. But they had the community solar being promoted within that way, so it just seems like,
Yeah, I just
It's
came back,
kind of the way-
came back from Oregon, driving
Yeah.
from Depot Bay in, and there are hillsides covered with solar panels.
you
down
can
there.
see
Yeah.
It is
windmills from the air.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is more just being prepared for what we potentially will see in the next 15 years,
I
given
think it's gonna
trends.
be faster than that.
Yeah.
Well, I just meant because the plan
Yeah,
goes to
yeah.
2045, I guess that's 20 years.
So in this overall utilities thing, do you have to concern yourself, are there any private water systems, and do you have to concern yourself with those, or?
We do have a few small private water systems still in Lacey. Most of them, I believe, are being run by the PUD at this point. Is that
Yeah,
right?
there's
Washington
PUD,
Water, too.
Washington Water, there's this tiny little, I think 17, 18 unit.
So, yeah, so very small.
Down off of Golf Club at 14th, it's approached us.
Yeah, there's
about a
one
year
down,
ago.
yeah, I thought there was.
I
one.
thought
Yeah.
PUD bought Washington Water.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
They bought Patterson, maybe they.
they bought Washington Water
too.
like 3
Okay.
or 4 years ago.
All right.
Well, good, okay.
So yes, there are some utilities. So what we do is we'll show in maps that go up on the comp plan website, what the water service areas. And so it'll show most of, Lacey's in the Lacey water service area, but it'll also identify what are those private utility systems. So I think we used to have a fairly consolidated effort to try to get more water
Yeah,
rights.
yeah,
And
right,
so we
yeah.
were in a position of taking some of those over in the past. And I'm not sure at this point if that's really a priority anymore, if we're just
No,
kind of
I mean-
allowing them to continue.
Yeah, I mean, typically, their full water right is being utilized, so we gain nothing,
Right.
by, it's kind of a net zero gain.
All right. Tanya, Spencer, you got anything more? Anybody in the room have anything more?
On the comp plan, I know it said water, will it go over things like, just so people understand like where sewers are and aren't in the city? Cause I know like there are still, like I'm in one of the neighborhoods that's still on septic.
Yep.
I'm over in the corner, but you're building all around me, so I'm interested to see what happens next. Cause I'm up in college, but just curious if that will be part of the comp plan so people understand.
It will be, so it'll
Service
be
areas.
basically as like an appendix, so it'll be
Okay.
something that you can get to through the comp plan website, because those are already adopted as part of the comp plan. We are not, as part of this comp plan update, doing any changes to any of the utility plans.
Yeah.
We just looked at the reclaimed water plan. The next one, I think, on the list for updating is the wastewater comp plan.
Right.
So that'll be in front of the planning commission, so that would be, the next one on the list. So we do those on I think a 5-year cycle to update. They are not updated at the same time as the comp plan, but we do all the, as part of this, we've done the population projections to make sure that the growth is syncing up with the wastewater, infrastructure and those kinds of things. So we have to make sure these things are all coordinated and connected. The utility plans are just on a little bit different cycle in terms of their update schedule, but they are certainly part of the comp plan. It will be,
So sort of where
here
are
as
we
such.
on the list of things that we have to look at versus done?
Can I make one comment? So the sewer conversation becomes a regional conversation because of lot.
Got it, because of the
Oh,
agreement,
yeah.
okay, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Thank you.
I was gonna say where, in terms of planning commission, where are we in terms of the comp plan reviews?
Yeah, so good question. So maybe this would be a good opportunity to look at the calendar that's at the end of your packet. I put that in every meeting
Right.
so that you can see where we're at on certain things. So coming up here, you'll notice that really you don't have much of anything from May through June, and that's comp plan related. You certainly have meetings and you'll have agenda items coming up, so I don't want to give you a pass on that. But you're not gonna have anything comp plan related. So what we're gonna be doing is we're doing the final review of the goals and policies and assembling all that information and putting it on the website that will be released right around July 1st. So you can imagine that probably your next comp plan related meeting will be the first meeting in July where you'll actually review the draft comprehensive plan. And we'll have that on the agenda. From there, we're going to be then taking public input and integrating that into a final review draft that would be then brought to the planning commission probably early fall for public hearing, for final review, public hearing, and then a recommendation to the council. So, I mean, at this point, we are well into, we're probably better than 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the way through the comp plan update. So the next thing that the planning commission will see will be that full review draft in July.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna call this meeting adjourned. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
To get through 3 presentations in an hour and 40, it's
awesome.
so.
So